Good morning again, friends, family, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad to be with you today. It's a bright, sunny, beautiful morning, and I hope that you're all doing well wherever you may be in this big, beautiful, bright globe. It's time again for Storytime with Rob, and I have a great one for you today as well. This one I think you're going to like, mainly because there's something in it that you probably use weekly that you probably never even thought about where it came from. So I'm going to share this with you, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you're having a great week. This particular story is called Fall Where They May. All right. If Neil Vanderbilt was spoiled, he could afford to be. The son of a Staten Island farmer, Neil had clawed his way to the top. Built from scratch one of the most remarkable transportation empires the world had ever seen. So if Neil Vanderbilt was spoiled, he could afford to be finicky and to have his way. Cornelius Vanderbilt, born not 20 years after the Declaration of Independence. A stubborn child, Neil refused to attend school past the age of 11. At 16, he purchased a small sailboat with money he borrowed from his parents. But the vessel was not for pleasure, not entirely anyway. Young Neil used it to carry passengers between Staten Island and New York City. A lifetime of enterprise was just beginning. During the War of 1812, Neil was authorized to transport provisions and soon had a small fleet engaged in river and coastal trade. In 1818, he sold out, went to work for ship magnate Thomas Gibbons, and by 1829, Vanderbilt had formed his own steamboat company, managing to dominate the business with lower fares and greater luxury. In a short while, his lines extended to Boston and to Providence, and by 1846, Commodore Cornelius Vanderbilt was, back in that time, if you can imagine, a multimillionaire. During the 1850s, he frequented a little place in Saratoga Springs, New York, called Moon Lake Lodge. Saratoga Springs was a resort town catering to the pre-Kitty Hawk jet set, you might say, and Moon Lake Lodge was their smartest restaurant. It was, as they would say then, the talk of the town. You'd expect the chef at Moon Lake to have been imported from Paris, but George Crumb was a full-fledged, honest-to-goodness Indian chief at that time, which is interesting. And though Chef Crumb was schooled in international cuisine, he couldn't be expected to know all the new recipes being created. Probably that's how the latest culinary rage from France escaped him. The delicacy, a favorite of the elite, was called none other than French fries. French fried potatoes in those days were very French, relatively new, exotic, and exclusive. That is how Moon Lake's most distinguished customers come in. Transportation tycoon Cornelius Vanderbilt. He too was quite familiar with international cuisine and decided one evening to order a plate of these French fries. When they were brought to him, Cornelius explained that French fried potatoes were sliced much thinner in Paris. He'd just returned from Paris and he knew. These, he told the waiter, are much too thick. Dutifully, the waiter returned the potatoes to the kitchen. Busy chef George Crumb thought little of it, however. Working at Moon Lake Lodge, he was not unaccustomed to the sometimes petulance of the well-to-do. George proceeded to slice and prepare another batch of French fries, thinner this time. But shortly after the plate left the kitchen, it was back again. They're still too thick, the waiter told the chef. Well, that did it. It threw him over the top. Now, this was 1853. Two subordinates were attempting to wrest control of the company from Vanderbilt. It had not been an easy year, or perhaps there was some other irritation going on that evening that we don't know about. Whatever the case, Chef George Crumb had had enough. With an "I'll fix him" look in his eyes, George sharpened his knife to a razor-sharp edge, seized a potato, and began slicing it paper thin. He then dipped the slices into boiling fat, salted them to excess, and personally bolted through the kitchen door with the plate of brown, brittle shavings. The waiters tried to stop him, but it was too late. George had made it to the Vanderbilt table with what appeared a most overdone, oversalted, and unpalatable offering. Neil, however, liked it. At least he said so. Maybe he just felt guilty about having complained so vigorously. But Commodore Cornelius Vanderbilt said he liked it, and that was enough endorsement to win for this dish a permanent place on the prestigious menu of the Saratoga Inn. You see, the American variation of what the French called fries, by 1887, the recipe was in the White House cookbook. And after potato peeling and slicing were automated in the mid-20s, and Chef Crumb's innovation was available and wanted worldwide, Cornelius Vanderbilt's transportation empire served him well. But the tasty legacy he left us, the byproduct of his moment of petulance in 1853, the overcooked revenge of an overwrought chef, was none other than the potato chip. And now you know the rest of the story. Thank you so much for joining me today, and until tomorrow, be safe.